You are now listening to the Pelicans post-game report. Flash report.
Shout out to the Flock and Nation PPR representing for all things Pelicans. We up in this thing. And listen, fam, we're going to discuss some of the Pelicans and the luxury tax situation. Big ups to the fam. Let's look right into it, man. Y'all hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and feel free to share the show on your social media feed. This one's directly from our good friends at Sports Illustrated. Shout out to brother Kyle T. Mosley. Ex-Pelicans are predicted to continue making moves that will keep them under the tax threshold. All right, let's kind of dig into this. And this article was inspired by a Bleacher Report article that we'll kind of dig into. And what that pretty much is this article right here from Eric Pincus. And he's basically saying how the new salary cap rules limit every NBA team. So let's kind of delve into this. The 2023 collective bargaining agreement instituted stricter rules to both slow and speed spending. The league has instituted 2 hard caps for teams that go well above the luxury tax threshold. Now, those above the first and second aprons have limited tools to sign or trade for players. Similarly, the days of teams choosing not to spend in the offseason and hoarding cap room until the February trade deadline to take on unwanted salary have all been phased out. Of the impact of the new CBA was evident this offseason. The Golden State Warriors broke up the Splash Brothers with Klay moving on to Dallas, while the Clippers chose not to pay Paul George. He headed to the Sixers. Meanwhile, some teams have begun to hand out short-term inflated contracts to reach the salary floor, which is 90% of the salary cap. Indiana Pacers did so with Bruce Brown last offseason, and Detroit did so with Tobias this summer. Some despise the new rules, but many haven't taken the time to study them thoroughly. The overarching goal is to ensure that the league and the players split the annual basketball-related income at about 50% each season. That wasn't the case last year. Team salaries were too high, so players had to give up 5.3% of their contracts to close out the year. The new system may take a few years to prove itself, but there's no question that the rules limit NBA teams. Holdovers from the prior CBA that triggered the first apron, which is $178.1 million, include signing players via the non-taxpayer mid-level exception, biannual exception, or signing trades. New triggers include using pre-existing traded player exceptions from the prior season and bringing back more salary than is sent out via the extended trade player exception, or the ETPE, among others. The newer second apron, which is $188.9 million, is triggered when a team signs a player with the taxpayer mid-level exception or via trade aggregates players or sends cash. Now, while a franchise can send out a player via sign and trade, like what the Timberwolves did with Kyle Anderson, it only triggers the second apron hard cap only when taking back someone in return, which Minnesota chose not to do. Now, even though there are several trades that were executed during the 23-24 calendar year, moves made during the pre-July offseason can still trigger a hard cap for the following 24-25 season. So the following details listed and its current hard cap situation via the most restrictive and first trigger, and how restrictions may or may not be limiting. So let's kind of look at what he's saying about this. All right, the first hard cap, first apron, acquired DeJounte Murray from Atlanta, ETPE, to projected taxable salary, $172.5 million, or $2.5 million penalty, projected room under cap or the first apron by $4.3 million. The Pelicans are another franchise notorious for ducking attacks. Last season, the team similarly started above the threshold, but dumped Kyra Lewis Jr. to get under it before it was too late. Now look for New Orleans to follow a similar path, though it may be a larger move centered around Brandon Ingram, since paying him to keep him long term may be similarly taxing. Impacts of new rules, marginal. So that's what his standpoint is on the Pelicans situation. Projected room under first apron by $4.3 million. So that's a bit of news right there, as we then flash back to the article that we were talking about, man, in this one. And he basically breaks down making a trade like the most obvious route to take if they're going to upgrade their center position. Now that virtually all of the starting caliber players at the position have found a home, but one of their most desired targets now signing a deal that prevents him from being moved. Their options have become limited. Now, at this point in time, all indications are the Pelicans will go into the season with Tice as the starting big man, rookies Jeeves Misi and Carlo Mekovic backing him up. Don't forget they also have Trey Jimerson as a center too that they picked up. Now, David Griffin mentioned how they would want to utilize a small ball lineup more often. And if this is how the roster is constructed for the opener, then that is exactly what they will deploy. Now, the Pelicans might operate moving forward after acquiring DeJounte Murray, is what Pincus of Bleacher Report was saying. So ideally for the front office, they will be able to include Ingram in the package deal that will land a starting center. And they've been searching for this whole summer. However, they have not have a lot of teams that have interested in Ingram, because a lot of people are saying it's a 50-50 thing. What some are saying that a lot of it's inclined with the Pelicans might have been asking for too much. And it's also coupled with the fact that BI doesn't want to relent on his 50 requests for a contract. Based on everything that has transpired or hasn't, it seems the Pelicans aren't going to be much more active before getting things started in camp during October. This is where we stand. We covered this on the last episode of the Pelican Postgame Report, where we thought about the BI situation. If y'all hadn't had an opportunity to listen to it, please feel free to go and listen to it. But like I said, man, Pelicans operating with the fixed thin roster right now, and that's what it is going in. Of course, we know training camp starts later on this month, I want to say. So the Pelicans, man, locking in, and we're going to know what's going on sooner than later. All right. So anyway, with that being said, we're going to get out on that. Shout out to our guys at the Sports Illustrated, Kyle T. Mosley and his writers. Y'all hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Feel free to share the show on your social media feed as well. Big Q representing PPR. Stand up. Much love for all things Pelicans. Y'all hit the links, hit the subscribe button, share the show on your social media feed, and we'll see you later on. Much love, and go Pels.
Subscribe now and stay up to date for all things New Orleans Pelicans.